After leaving the theater, I found my feelings towards Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice rather mixed. I didn't like it, but it did seem like it had some positive elements. Is this movie as bad as I thought, or was I missing something? I did the thing that helps me gather my thoughts on movies. I started scripting a video. Now, a lot of times I do this and I don't have enough material, so the thoughts go off into limbo or works its way into a top 5 video at a later date. That wasn't the problem I had with this movie. Here are my thoughts.
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them! Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness!
Batman v Superman has finally hit theaters, and it currently has critics and audiences divided. Who's right in this case? Well, let's examine this movie and see if it sucks. I find the easiest way to do this is to examine the individual characters and see how they were tackled. There are spoilers ahead. Although this movie started its production cycle as Man of Steel 2, it became a Batman movie. A more honest title would have been Batman: Dawn of Justice, featuring Superman. This is what Warner Brothers told the filmmakers to do, since Batman is the most profitable comic book character in DC's brand. And while the internet blew up at the idea of Ben Affleck playing Batman, including me, Affleck did a solid job. In fact, Affleck is by far the best aspect of this movie. Here, Batman has become more cutthroat, branding criminals and mowing them down with gunfire. The Batman seen here makes Tim Burton's Batman look like a lightweight. This is likely because this Batman is largely based on The Dark Knight Returns, although this Batman even makes that Batman look like a total lightweight.
Are you out of your mind?
There he kills because he's an old man, and he doesn't want to leave any mess for anyone else to clean up.
No more! All the people I've murdered by letting you live.
He came out of a forced retirement to clean up the mess Gotham had become in his absence. But here, it's explained that he's becoming enraged and cruel.
The fever. The rage. That turns good men cruel.
Because of the appearance of Superman. I'm not sure how that works. It is established he doesn't know about the other superheroes in the world, so is he just mad because with Superman, he's no longer the biggest kid on the playground? And how Batman seems to think Superman should be taken out simply because he's too powerful.
He has the power to wipe out the entire human race. If we believe there's even a 1% chance that he is our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
Honestly comes off as incredibly xenophobic. Sure, Batman got a bad impression of Superman during the Battle of Metropolis, but what did Superman do during that battle? He fought his own people to save Earth. What has he done since then? According to this movie, he's just been going around saving lives. I would understand if they want to take a Tower of Babel approach and just have Batman be prepared to take out Superman if the need should arise. And honestly, that 1% argument would make sense if that's the approach he was taking. But instead, he actively seeks to kill Superman. And yes, Luthor does manipulate Bruce, but he doesn't do it a lot. And honestly, Batman's a detective. His first instinct should be to find out who's sending him all these messages, rather than just take them at their word and go after Superman. He seems like he should be smart. He's hacking LexCorp and finding out about kryptonite and metahumans, but he's just written as a xenophobic asshole who's very easily manipulated. Batman should be smarter than this. I feel like Superman came off much better than Batman here. He did kill a terrorist at the beginning he didn't have to, which was just terrible, leaving me wonder if perhaps Zod did nothing more than give Superman a taste for blood. Seriously, what's the point of having a big dramatic scene where Superman snaps Zod's neck if here he only casually kills terrorists he doesn't have to? If he treats life so casually, what makes him any different than the Punisher? And I don't mean to belittle the Punisher. He has his place, and so does Superman. And Superman and Punisher shouldn't be so similar. But that's besides the point. Here, Clark Kent is investigating Batman because he's branding criminals and being a menace in Gotham.
Civil liberties are being trampled on in your city. People living in fear. He thinks he's above the law.
Which he is. But why does Clark care about Batman mistreating criminals when he will just as quickly kill a terrorist? He acts like he has the moral high ground, but he's just as bad. He isn't manipulated by Luthor until the third act when it's revealed that Lex has kidnapped Martha and will kill her unless Superman brings Luthor Batman's head. And even though Clark doesn't like Batman, he does attempt to talk to him before fighting, which honestly would have prevented the fight entirely. Batman just seems out for blood, and literally the only reason he doesn't kill Superman is because Superman's mother's name is Martha. Literally. If it was any other name, Batman would have killed Superman. That's fucked up. Honestly, wouldn't it have worked better if Superman said something like, "He's going to kill my mother"? After all, what child calls their parent by their first name, especially in a moment of desperation? Then Batman will realize that perhaps if Superman has a mother, perhaps he's more human than he thought. And that is their goal with the Martha bit, but by using the specific name Martha, it just comes off as extremely forced. They seem to be setting up a Superman who will let his father die, but will also rage out of control when a woman in his life is threatened.
You think you can threaten my mother?
You could argue that he was untrained when he threw Zod into a 7-Eleven to protect his mother, but that untrained excuse only works for one movie. He kills a terrorist for threatening Lois, and he is willing to kill Batman because Lex has threatened to kill his mother. I do recognize that he does attempt to talk to Batman first, but he does tell Lois not everyone stays good, clearly implying that he's at least considering killing him. And if he was smart, he would know he didn't have to kill Lex Luthor, but he could have restrained him instead of letting him get on that helicopter and leave. They already established that this Superman is willing to kill to protect Lois. But now that Lex Luthor has thrown Lois off a building and has threatened Martha, he's willing to just let Lex go? He could at least hold on to him or restrain him, but nope, he just lets him fly away. I'm not saying he needs to be faithful to the traditional Superman because clearly he's not, but they should at least be consistent with this Superman. Honestly, they seem to be setting up Superman for an injustice storyline, except instead of doing it the smart way, they're doing it via character assassination a la Anakin Skywalker in the prequels.
I'm really ahead of him. I'm ready for the trials, but he feels that I'm too unpredictable. He won't let me move on.
That must be frustrating.
It's worse. He's overly critical. He never listens. He doesn't understand. It's not fair.
The only reason Superman is faring better than Anakin is because Henry Cavill is a much better actor than Hayden Christensen. Gal Gadot's role here was small, but she did well in it. Unfortunately, her only real contribution was to give us Justice League Easter eggs that she got in an email from Batman. Yes, you heard me correctly, that is a scene in this movie. This iteration of Doomsday is created by mixing General Zod's body with Lex Luthor's blood. I'm not sure how mixing human blood with Kryptonian DNA makes something stronger than a normal Kryptonian, but fine. I did think it was bizarre how the ship tells Luthor it can't create Doomsday because the Council decreed against it, and Luthor just says the Council is dead, and the ship's response is pretty much, "Oh, okay, sure." Why would the ship even be programmed to do something that shouldn't do? But anyway, Doomsday is born and immediately he can blast lasers from his eyes and fly. At least it seems like he can fly. But that also means kryptonite works on Doomsday. So all those weapons Batman made to kill Superman come in really useful at the end. So Superman kills Doomsday with a kryptonite spear and Doomsday kills Superman. Because giving the spear to Wonder Woman or Batman would have been too easy, I guess. Here's an idea. Let's use teamwork. Have Superman distract Doomsday by battling him, while Batman sneaks up on Doomsday and kills him with the spear. You might say they used teamwork in the movie, and you would be right to a degree, but was very stupid teamwork. Essentially, Batman distracts Doomsday while Wonder Woman ties him up and Superman kills Doomsday. They just wrote a situation that had Superman dying without thinking about whether or not it would be strategically smart for him to die or whether or not he even needed to die at that moment. Their thought process seemed like it was just, well, here's Doomsday, so let's kill Superman, even though in this situation that we set up, it won't be necessary at all. The movie spends so much time referencing The Dark Knight Returns. Hell, it references it in the Doomsday fight even, but the death of Superman story feels so tacked on at the end. In the comic book, the Doomsday fight was designed as a slugfest between Superman and Doomsday, where the two beat each other to death. But here, since they designed Doomsday with a weakness, they can introduce him and kill him pretty damn quickly. Doomsday having a weakness really defeats the purpose of his character. The death of Superman didn't have him die to kryptonite or some other weakness. He is beaten to death with raw force. Having Doomsday die easily to some weakness goes against the death of Superman's story arc. Amy Adams makes a good Lois Lane, but this movie, like the second half of Man of Steel, struggles to keep her relevant. She's investigating a bullet that a terrorist had that was made by Lex Corp. And this information has no impact on the story. Then she's running around with a kryptonite spear at the end and almost drowns. That's her whole contribution. I saved the worst for last. Jesse Eisenberg sucks as Luthor, but I don't blame the actor as the character was flawed from conception. The first thing about this character we learn is that he's actually Lex Luthor Jr., that his dad made the company. He brings up being an orphan, but all seems like a setup to bring a better, older Lex Luthor in later. But why not give us a good Lex Luthor now? This character has no motivation to be evil, other than being named Lex Luthor. He seems involved with the Senate hearings about Superman. He's also trying to get kryptonite he found into the US, but then he just blows up the whole hearing, resolving the storyline that the movie spent time investing us in, only to have it ultimately go nowhere. Well, not quite nowhere. See, before the bomb, he gives the senator a jar of his piss. You didn't mishear me. A rumor that the Joker was supposed to be in this movie seems confirmed by this plot point. Lex giving someone a jar of piss to fuck with them seems bizarre. However, Joker giving someone a jar of piss seems right in his wheelhouse. It would also explain why Lex is so goddamn bizarre in this movie. In my mock trailer, I likened him to Jar Jar Binks, and while he's not actually quite that bad, he is still very much the Jar Jar Binks of this movie. There's a scene where he feeds a man a Jolly fucking Rancher, reassuring the man that it's cherry. And it's all treated with the utmost seriousness because God forbid this movie be anything like a Marvel film, despite the fact that Marvel has tackled complex issues while still managing a joke here and there.
Where did Captain America learn how to steal a car?
Hell, the Dark Knight trilogy had occasional jokes, and it never had anything as ridiculous as a jar of piss.
Well, it's a good thing I left everything to you then.
Quite so, sir. And you can borrow the rolls if you like. Just bring it back with a full tank.
In a movie that avoids humor like The Black Plague, Eisenberg is a joke. He sticks out and doesn't remotely work. The big thing people talked about was how the destruction of Man of Steel would play a major role in this movie. But it was very meta how little it mattered. It felt like the hearing represented the people who had problems with Man of Steel, as they were people questioning Superman for his questionable actions in the last movie. But the movie just blows those people up and moves on. It's like the movie is saying, you people have problems with Man of Steel? Well, fuck you, here's some piss. This movie is a mess. Essentially, it's a terrible script elevated by strong performances from Cavill and Affleck. Gadot does well with her character, but could easily be deleted. This movie was bloated, but not with characters as everyone feared. The movie is bloated with stories. There's a story about humanity's view of Superman that goes nowhere. There's a story about Batman's xenophobia. There's a story about whether Superman should continue being a hero if humanity doesn't accept him or becomes overdependent on him, which honestly just feels like leftovers from Man of Steel that I thought were resolved in that movie. There's Clark Kent wondering if Batman might go too far. There's Dark Knight Returns crammed everywhere it might fit. There's the death of Superman thrown in at the end. There's Lex Luthor's fucking piss. A lot of this might work on its own, but crammed together all becomes lost in the jumble. It's clear they were literally throwing everything they could think of into this movie to see what sticks. Sadly, if they had stuck to one or two or possibly even three stories, they might have had a passable movie. But as it is, it's so crowded that nothing gets the attention it deserves. Even the moral implications Superman faces for destroying Metropolis and Man of Steel becomes nothing more than a pointless side thought in this movie. And while the titular battle between Batman and Superman is quite cool, it's pretty much all in the trailers, except for the bits with kryptonite in it. The movie has dream sequences, many of which are just Easter eggs for upcoming movies that end up being vague enough that I'm not sure at all if they know exactly what they're doing. It definitely seems like Darkseid's on the way, but that's obvious for a DC Universe story. We see another take on the death of Bruce Wayne's parents, again. It's all just too much. It's not the worst superhero movie ever by any means. It does have good ideas, it just has no idea what to do with them other than piss them away. Shit, that jar of Lex's piss might actually sum up the whole damn movie quite well. Hey, if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe. That helps me out a lot. And if you really love this video, consider visiting my Patreon page.